I don't.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is episode number 74 of Material Issues. I'm Mark Hershberger over here in South Jersey from Pop Detective Records. Joining me for the 74th time, essentially, my good friend from the West Coast and the International Pop Overthrow Festival, David Bash. How you doing this evening, David?
I'm doing well this afternoon, Mark.
Well, listen, evening after, I can tell I'm darker over here. You're lighter over there. Which way? I feel like I'm on Hollywood Squares. I don't know which way to point.
Oh, I wish I could come up with a spontaneous Paul Lind one-liner. You ever go on YouTube and look at some people have put up like a collection of his one-liners on Hollywood Squares, and I mean the thing. Hey Barry, the thing that made it funniest was his snicker after his line. If he didn't, no, it was like that. It was.
I can't do it.
I can't really either, but it was kind of like that. Every time he would deliver a line, he'd laugh at his own joke, and that made it funnier. I do.
It's a great show.
I do, and of course, Paul Lind was gay and couldn't come out at the time, but a lot of his answers would sort of hint at that. Like I remember something about. I do remember actually seeing this one live. Peter Marshall gave him a question, something to do like, as a man gets older, yeah, for sure he would. As a man gets older, he loses a quarter of an inch or something like that, or maybe even as a full inch. And he said, and Lynn goes, "Where?" He would do stuff like that would indicate that
where.
But
he was also fantastic on Bewitched, if we can say that.
Great as Uncle Arthur. I also liked the Paul Lind show.
Yeah,
which had a potential Material Issues guest, I suppose, Pamela Ferdin, because she's been doing a lot of Facebook stuff and interviews, all over the place, talking about her career. It's when you look back at what she's done. I mean. Yeah, well, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
When you look back at what she's done, she was on more programs than a lot of people remember, just playing little girl parts. And
right.
She's also she's famous for being on that Brady Bunch episode where Jan is feeling, in Marsha's shadow, she's feeling ordinary. So she puts on the black wig and everybody laughs.
Right. Yeah.
And Pamela is one of the people laugh because they think she's joking because her hair's so beautiful. Like, why would she want to do that?
Right.
So yeah, that's probably her most iconic role. She was on a Star Trek episode. She's on all kinds of stuff. So hopefully we can get her to be a guest.
Oh, that'd be great.
She'd have a lot of stories. But anyway,
I was just telling somebody the other day. I think it was at the restaurant. We talk about all the funny movies, the Chevy Chase National Lampoon movies, Vacation, European Vacation, Christmas Vacation. Then we get into Dumb and Dumber and all those classic ones that you can quote all the lines, But one of the movies we forgot all about, and we just started talking about, was Nothing But Trouble, which is Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, Chevy Chase. It was a great movie, and we talked about, like, no one ever talks about this movie. And then there's a drive-in movie theater about an hour or so from here called the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. It's one of the oldest remaining drive-in movie theaters, and they were showing it Friday night at the drive-in. And I was
Someone's ears were burning. Yeah,
somebody's ears were burning. So, hey, how you doing, Facebook user?
Hi, whoever you are.
Drop us a hi and say hi. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of movies. Of movies of which I can quote almost every line. There are a few. I mean, probably two of them would be among my two favorite movies of all time: Animal House and Dazed and Confused.
Mm-hmm.
I can also quote a lot of lines from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I mean, I'm no highbrow movie lover. Most of my favorites are kind of juvenile comedies like those. high school, college type comedies. I do like a few deep things, but they're not really going to be in my top 10, maybe in my top 50. But
yeah, if I think about my top 5 or so, there's probably some classic comedies there, but there's also some other things that would just be iconic to my youth. I mean, like The Sound of Music for me is so iconic that I couldn't imagine maybe never seeing that again, if I think about it. And there's a few movies, Young Frankenstein, one of my all-time favorite. I just think that's such a classic. And I'm a big True Grit fan. John Wayne, Glenn Campbell, that was one of my favorites. So
oh, wow. Okay.
it kind of, and then the one movie, well, The Idolmaker, we've talked about that before with Peter Gallagher and Paul Land, and Maureen McCormick was in that. But one of my all-time favorites that nobody really has ever seen is The Seven Faces of Dr. Lowe with Tony Randall.
Yeah.
I bring that up a lot.
Was it really Lowe? I thought it was L.A. So L.A.O. is Lowe? Oh,
well,
wow.
that's how he.
I've never seen it.
If you watch him in the movie, they ask, "Who are you?" when he's playing Dr. Lowe as the Chinaman, and he's like,
that's not how he. The way I heard it, he said, "They call me Dr. Lowe." They call me.
No.
See, I got Kiss into the broadcast, but they're not power pop.
We're not gonna hear the end of that one.
No, we're not. That is for sure. They took the yes, indeed they did.
It's good. Yeah, it's true, Andy. Dialogue in True Grit is brilliant. Yes, it is.
I haven't seen that probably since it came out.
I love it.
I don't remember any of it. But Kim Darby was in that, right?
Kim Darby, yeah. Kim Darby, Glenn Campbell, and John Wayne. That was
right.
And who played Andy? Who played the main bad guy? Famous actor.
Someone who's famous for playing bad guys.
Sometimes. I'm just losing my. Andy will come up with it.
Very few bad guys were better than William Smith, who played Falcon Eddie in Rich Man, Poor Man. That was a fucking bad guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a prototype. And pretty much everything he was in. No, I never saw that.
Elkie Summer. Whatever happened to Elkie Summer?
She was, she was a
Robert Duvall. Thank you, Andy. Robert Duvall was in there.
Not known as a bad guy.
No, but he played a great bad guy part in True Grit. That's who it was. Thank you, Andy.
Robert Duvall was in one of my all-time favorite Twilight Zone episodes, and Twilight Zone is something I could talk about for days and days and years and years. But this one's not that well known because it was an hour-long episode, and they weren't in syndication. We didn't really start seeing them until the marathons.
Right.
And he was in one called Miniature, which you may remember seeing, where he plays a misfit guy who goes to a museum and walks up to a dollhouse and falls in love with the doll in there. And it's very, very touching. And he does a great, great job playing the character.
Yeah, we can go on forever about.
He's such a versatile actor. It's really insane.
We could talk about Twilight Zone for the next 5 episodes.
We could. Just please don't tell me Bewitching Pool is one of your favorites.
No.
I know John Borak loves it. If he's listening, really? It's such a piece of shit. It really is. On so many levels.
See, well, that's cool. We're going to have anybody who's going to watch this. They'll be looking that up right away. Yeah, check it out. That's funny. I love it.
What else can we talk about? We won't get into baseball too deeply because I know that most of our watchers don't really like it. But very glad the Yankees won. I'm especially glad that we got to piss on Josh Naylor after that really juvenile response to hitting a home run off of Garrett Cole with a "Rock Your Baby" and he's my son. Like, fuck you. I'm so glad you lost. To the rest of the Guardians, it's like, you guys did great. You hung in there.
Well, I'll tell you what.
The team was better than you were, and you did good. And I know who this is, and no, we're not wrong. Believe me.
And Barry's saying Phillies.
Well,
Phillies are doing something. Yeah.
I'm happy with the repeat of 2009.
That's something.
There's
the thing. I talk about often with some friends of mine as well. In all the major sports, you generally don't see Major League Baseball players celebrating in any like real way. We discussed this before.
Yes,
They
we
may
did.
hit a
Yeah.
home run and go like this or something, but anything more than that, you don't see it. Not like football players where they have a whole choreographed dance routine and act like they're 13-year-olds at a junior high dance, and then go bowling or something. It's just it's like be a
No, no.
pro, guys. Be an
There,
adult.
I understand, and that's one of the reasons why baseball is lost on young people, and
Yeah.
why they do gravitate towards football and basketball, because these guys do let it all hang out. They do celebrate. Sometimes it's a little bit inappropriate. Other times it's fun. It's funny. Um, Baseball is way more, it's always going to be a more traditional game,
Yeah.
and it's very old school, and the idea of celebrating is frowned upon, but there are ways to do it and there are ways not to do it. What you know if somebody in football were to score a touchdown, then run up to the cornerback he just beat and got in his face and started making like this kind of thing, like I'm your daddy, that would not be welcomed at all, even in football.
Well, they'd throw a flag on him for
They
immediate
throw a flag,
taunting,
but also the
but
cornerback would probably, he'd probably shove him, and there'd be a fight. I mean, you don't do that.
how about
There's
I
certain
don't
things you
I
just don't do.
I forget who it was, but who ran into the end zone, scored a touchdown, and then had a cell phone hidden in the goalpost and
Oh,
came
I
out and
think that
took a
was T.
selfie.
Was that T.O.
I don't know.
Or was
Was
it
it Ter-
Chad Ochocinco? It was one of those
one
guys.
of might have been Ocho Cinco? That was nuts. But how about Schwarber's home run last night? Longest hit in that stadium.
Yeah, I didn't see it,
It,
but yeah, I heard about it. Well,
488 feet or something. Yeah,
the guy's a beast.
he just hit it.
Quite a
He
home
just
run
hit it
hitter.
perfect on a perfect swing. And
Now let me ask you your opinion on this, and I have a
yeah,
feeling because you are kind of traditional when it comes to
yeah,
baseball.
yeah.
How would you feel if they went back to it old school, instead of having divisions and instead of having wild cards, just put all the teams in order, and the team that wins the most games wins the pennant, and they play against the team in the other league who does the same thing
I
for the
would love
World
it.
Series. I had a feeling you would.
Yeah.
I would kind of like to see that also, because you're playing 162 games. It's not like football where you're playing 16 games, and guys get hurt in football a lot. So
Right. Yeah.
so a team with maybe a little bit of a lesser record should have a chance to redeem themselves in the postseason. But baseball, you're playing 162 games. I think the team that wins the most games out of that should be in the World Series.
Well, I mean, I get it. They're doing it all for the almighty dollar.
Well, yeah, it's all for the dollar. It's
I'm
always been for
also
the dollar.
I'm also not a fan of interleague play. I think half or most of the excitement for me when I was a kid was this team has never played this team.
Right.
And here's two teams that have never faced each other, during the season. Maybe if you're traded between whatever, but they've never faced each other. And that, for me,
get that.
that makes such an exciting series. But if you've played the Yankees 8 times during the year or whatever, I mean,
I don't think so, though, Mark. I was actually very much in favor of it, and I still am. And I remember the Yankees-Mets series in 2000, and it was as if they hadn't played each other. They were still New York rivals. If anything, maybe playing each other heated it up even more, because now they're in the World Series. Now they're there for all the marbles, and they've gone through the year despising each other. And now it's and you certainly saw a couple of things that happened in that series, namely Clemens hitting Piazza, and then next time Piazza hits a ground ball, Clemens the bat comes out. Clemens takes the bat handle and throws it at him.
Yeah.
I mean, Clemens was, he was hopped up on Now We Know, but he was also a real bastard anyway, and he hated the Mets and they hated him, and so I mean, I get why people don't like interleague play. I get it for the reasons that you mentioned. And for me, it was kind of fun. I was really glad to see some of those teams, because some of them, you're never going to see in the playoffs. Some of them you're never going to see in the World Series.
But that's also why winning your National League East or West or American League East or West back in the day was a big deal, because you played the other teams in your division and the other half a lot more, So,
but that's the problem though, because somebody who, let's say someone finishes second in that division with a really good record, that might be a really tough division. And if they don't, and it could be a lot tougher than the other division. So they're getting screwed. That's why I say line up. Besides lining up all the teams, you play each team an equal amount. No more division crap. No more playing teams in your more in your area than the teams in the other areas, so that we have divisions that are imbalanced. But of course, money was always money was the original motivator for. Actually, it was less of a facilitator than it was an inhibitor, because baseball was worried about all the money they were spending flying these teams all around the country. So they figured they'd come up with divisions to save money in that regard. So it's more of a money saving. Then they found out they could make a whole lot more money by doing it. And, since then there were 3 divisions and expanded playoffs, and now they're making all the money. So talking about it's even kind of foolhardy, because it's never going to go back. No matter how many people complain about it.
I think next year in pro hockey, I think every team makes the playoffs.
I remember they were the first sport to really go haywire with the playoffs.
It's like there's like 4 teams that don't make the playoffs, and it gets to be
teams with under 500 records, and they play 81 games.
82 games.
Yeah. So I mean, again, that's a lot of games. I think
it's just kind of stupid.
I think you play the only sport where I think it's valid is football.
Yeah.
Because of the small number of games and because of the injuries that happen. Anyway, it's a fun thing to talk about, but it's never going to change.
No, it's never going to change.
So let's talk about some stuff that might be fun for our listeners.
Yeah.
Live or on archive. And that is some new releases and some reissues. And I've got to start out.
What you got going on?
I know that people are anxiously awaiting, but I was fortunate enough to get in advance so I could write a review, and that is the Revolver box set, which is coming out on the 28th, I believe.
Yeah, I got mine pre-ordered.
You got yours on there? That's another thing we could talk about, but I'll get to it maybe. This is the 5 CD edition.
Yep.
There's also the LP version, which I'll be buying because I need to have it as a collector. And there's some smaller versions, but you don't want those if you're a real Beatles nut, right? Because they don't have all the demos and outtakes and things. People want to know. I wrote my review of it on rockandrollglobe.com. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out, see what you think. But people, of course, want to know how's the new mix. They want to know about some of the demos. Well, like I said, read the review. But the new mix is very cool. It reminds me a lot of what they tried to do with the original mono mix, which is make things really punchy. Right. It's a lot punchier, and some of the songs are a little bit longer. So you're hearing stuff, but it's mostly just hearing a lot of certain instruments and certain nuances in the songs that you hadn't heard on the original stereo mix. It's not as separated, so that's another thing that people are going to like. It's cool. That alone is, I don't know, I can't say it's worth the price of admission because you can get that mix on even the 2-disc set.
Right.
What is worth the price of admission are here and here, of course, just 2 and 3. Somebody asked, well, first of all, the questions is how much of this stuff is previously unreleased? And that's the one thing the box doesn't do a great job of, letting you know what's unreleased and previously, on a couple of things that are out of print now.
Right.
Not a lot is previously unreleased, but even those that aren't, which might be on the anthology volume 2 and stuff, they're augmented. So you're going to hear things, you're going to hear beginnings and endings that you hadn't heard, even if you have the anthology. And also the pièce de résistance for me is that Matrix 1 version of Tomorrow Never Knows, which prior to this box, you could only get on the original album, which was out for about a week. What had happened was the tape that was submitted to Parlophone had an earlier version of Tomorrow Never Knows, one that both Lennon and McCartney didn't like and didn't want to use. but it ended up coming out when Lennon, especially when he found out about it, he got really pissed off and said to Brian Epstein, "Fix this," and he did, and it was withdrawn after about a week and replaced with a version that had Tomorrow Never Knows What They Want. It's known as a Matrix one because that's what's in the number that's in the grooves.
Right.
Has a 1 at the end of it. Anyway, the only way you could get that song is the original vinyl, and people have paid some big money to get it. And even part of the problem with that even was that the track is the last track on side 2. So you know how it is. If the record was played a couple of times, the last track is going to have a good chance of being distorted, even if the record looks good.
Right. Yeah.
So even that's not necessarily a foolproof thing. So now you're going to have it here in absolutely pristine quality. Nice. And it's a really cool mix. It's much more psychedelic than the one that came out. I'm not sure why they didn't like it better, but they didn't.
Yeah.
And it was rare up until now. I don't know if this version is on the 2-disc or if it's only on the 5. Like I said, about half of these tracks are not available on the 2-disc version. We'll have to find. Oh, you've got one. Holy crap. Oh, that's right. I think you mentioned this. Bought from Bill Forsyth. Yeah. We need to talk about Minus Zero. This is a very interesting thing. Minus Zero is a record store that I believe was run by Bill Forsyth and his partner. I don't remember the guy's name, but one day they had a huge feud, or a huge fight, which became a feud. But instead of closing the shop, which is probably what normally would happen when the two owners are, they ended up having 2 shops in the same space, right across from each other. And they didn't speak to literally did not say a word to each other. I had Bill Allerton. Okay. I had the opportunity to go in there while that was still happening. And the tension was palpable. And this was years after they did this. So you would think they'd be used to it, but you could tell they did not acknowledge each other's presence. It's
every
really
single day.
Ultimately, the shop closed. I don't know whatever happened between the 2 guys, but I've never seen anything like that.
Maybe we can get both of them on material issues.
I'm not even sure if they're still alive. If anybody out there knows, let me know.
Wouldn't that be funny?
Yeah,
and
I don't think it would be possible. Yeah, surprise. We get Bill Forsyth on. And, Bill, we've got a special guest for you. We don't tell Bill Allerton that Bill Forsyth is on, so neither of them know. And suddenly they see each other. If they're still alive, we can try that.
And we'll all just sit here like this.
Right. That's true, because they won't say anything, so we can join them. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to follow up with the Revolver review. I read the review, great review. So I hope everybody checks that out. But reading interviews from Giles Martin on exactly how Peter Jacobson and his company used this AI to pull out individual instruments from a track when there was a track that had, say, 4 instruments on it, which is really what Giles Martin said. Without Peter Jacobson and this AI technology,
right,
he wouldn't be able to do this. So then I started thinking, this is going to lead Giles to be able to go back and do Rubber Soul and
right.
earlier.
Yeah, I think that's a plan. Yeah,
it's probably going to be the plan because this technology allows that. Then I got to thinking, with that technology, what albums would we like to see that done to and remixed by somebody with a great ear to make them pop? Think about the albums, some of the albums from the 50s that were all recorded sometimes on one track, all instruments, maybe just 2 tracks, vocals on one side, everything else on the other side. If they Barry said, Bill,
you know about Bill Allerton, Barry? Apparently you don't, or you would have said something. Plastic Passion. They spent 2 Bill F. game on Bill stand out. Yeah, I'd forgotten that, but they both stood out as being separate from each other.
Think of like Buddy Holly albums. Think of things like some of the rockabilly things that could really be brought brought to the forefront instrument wise with that technology. And then you just a lot of 60s albums. I'd love, you know, there's just tons of things from the 60s that you'd be like, oh my God, that'd be great. But my question is, would there be a market for that? Would people, are we aging ourselves out of redoing or remixing some 50s and early 60s classic albums to the point where nobody really?
I don't think so. I mean, two things. One, there's still people around who collect that stuff from back in the day or from even our day who found it retrospectively. And there's some young kids who are getting into, you know, the one thing that, you know, kids of back in the 50s, certainly there weren't a whole lot of kids exploring the joys of Billy Murray or Al Jolson. But now, I mean, you've got people who love music that came out before they were born. I mean, the Beatles, of course, are keeping that whole ethos alive. But, you know, they're going back and discovering Elvis and Buddy Holly and Chuck Berry and, you know, all the greats from back then. I think there would be a market. I don't think it's a huge market. The Beatles, of course, are the Beatles.
So then would it be worth paying somebody good enough to do those kind of things in order to release it on smaller? I mean, for me personally, yeah, if they redid Johnny Burnett and the Rock and Roll Trio and Buddy Holly and Gene Vincent, Eddie Cochran, and put out, you know, their classic albums by remixing in this fashion, I'd be all over that. But I also would be all over that if they did things from the 40s too, in the swing era, where you could really bring out, you know, different parts and go, wow, you know,
Glenn Miller albums.
Glenn Miller albums. I mean, so much of that great stuff is so buried with all the instrumentation that you really don't get the full effect of it. And you could do something like that. I'd personally be all over that. But
I think it would be a matter of economics, as it usually is. How much would they have to pay? How much an engineer to do it? How much would it cost to get it out? Obviously, doing it with a small label would cut down costs dramatically, but it would also cut down promotion and distribution. I think there's a niche market for it. I'm certain there still is. I think it would certainly just depend upon cost, but I have a feeling with this technology, and I should have mentioned the technology in my review. Yeah. I'm not that big a technology geek like a lot of people out there. But I think there would be a market for all of that stuff. And you talk about 60s albums. How about some early Kinks albums in stereo? Create a stereo mix. I know some people didn't like it when Mark Lynette created the Pet Sounds stereo mix. They said it's not the way it was cut. It's not, you know, it's all artificial. Sounded great. Yeah. And I was hearing stuff in there that I'd never heard. And this isn't stuff they added later. This is stuff that was in the original mix that you just couldn't hear in the mono version.
Right.
So,
and that's kind of the reason to do a lot of that stuff.
Great.
Yeah. Because you're missing a lot of nuance, and you're missing a lot of things. And if you can bring that out and hear why they throw that in there, or why, but they did it, and to be able to hear that, I think is
think of all the MGM albums that it used to say on the cover, sounds great in stereo, and I would always say, how do you know? Because the thing's rechanneled, it's not stereo, but it could be now.
How do you know?
Get those Animals albums and those Herman's Hermits and those, and also on Epic, the Dave Clark 5. Get those. Well, Dave Clark, that's another story. He won't let it.
Yeah.
Did he pass away? I forgot. Well, if he did,
no, I don't. I think Dave Clark is still alive. Yeah.
Well, even if he had passed, his estate would never let it happen either. But there are some people, for whatever reason, he's saying these are mine and you can't have them.
Which is kind of strange. I mean, I think obviously he doesn't need the money, or he could have capitalized on that long ago.
He would have, no doubt about it.
But I mean, I don't understand the logic of not letting the world enjoy the artistry, the music.
Some resentment there. Yeah. Some resentment. Maybe he felt like, you know, his stuff didn't get his proper due at the time, and it's like, oh, now you're interested. Well, fuck you, buddy.
Yeah. Well,
you're not getting it.
You're not the only. Everybody's the only band.
Everyone's different. Everybody's different.
Sure,
some people are like so happy to have that stuff redone. other people, it's like, no, you can't have it. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
But
don't know.
anyway, the last thing I wanted to say about Revolver, because apparently, and I don't know that 100% that this is true, but one of the things that's on the new album is the laughing mix of and as they call it, of "And Your Bird Can Sing," where
Right.
both Paul and John start cracking up. And I'm sure the Beatles geeks among our listeners will know the rumors, but apparently, from what I understand, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, the song was about Cynthia, John's wife, and the lyrics, were cryptically revealed certain, shall we say, proclivities of hers. John confided this all into Paul. So on this mix, when they're hearing it, and this is obviously an early one, they look at each other while they're listening, and they know what it's about. Nobody else does, but they do, and they just start laughing at the whole thing. I mean, it would be like an in joke between you and me.
Right.
We've got all these other people around. They don't know what it's about. We do. We're in on it. The whole thing becomes absurd, and we start laughing. That's what I understand to be the case. Again, if somebody who knows more than me about the Beatles, and I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who do, if you know different, please let me know. But anyway,
once again, if my superpower is that I could go back anywhere in time without being noticed and just sit there and watch something, there'd be so many Beatles sessions. I think I'd waste the rest of my life just going back to those sessions and sitting in a corner and watching everything go on.
Which is something that we got to do in the Get Back documentary. In a sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
Stump the Bash is coming up.
It's got to be Catherine, because she's from Germany, and she's 9 hours ahead of us.
From Germany.
You did not miss Stump the Bash, but you've got to, if we'll be doing it in a few minutes, you got to stick around.
6 hours, 5 hours of sleep is plenty.
That's right. So yeah, stay up with us, Catherine. Definitely. Thank you for checking in. I'm assuming it's her. I can't. That's usually what she says. When you realize, it certainly was John was giving it to Cub. Cub? Is that her a nickname for Cynthia? I've never heard. I don't know who Cub is unless it's Ernie Banks.
More new releases, please. Here we
All right.
go.
Well, we're going to talk about some new releases.
Oh, sin.
You don't get me. Yeah. Okay. If that's John Borak, we certainly should trust him, because he's written a book.
I think Katrina's going to stay up with us.
If that's John Borak, he just wrote a book on the Beatles' 100 pivotal moments. So if he says that, whatever he says, I'll believe. So
yep, indeed. When it comes to Beatles.
Anyway, let's talk about some. I was going to talk about a reissue box set, but
hey, Phil.
Hey, Phil. Oh, okay. Well, Phil Angotti knows a lot about the Beatles.
Yeah,
for sure he does. And Phil, if you're listening, again, come to IPO Liverpool. I know it's expensive. I promise you, whatever you have to spend to do it, you will be glad you did. And you may even want to do it again. So you're invited. Anytime you want to go, you tell me. Oh, thank you, Catherine. Yeah, Phil, anytime you want to come to Liverpool, you tell me. Sometimes my wife and I make a short list of people we know should be coming to Liverpool. Oh yeah,
Greg Shaw.
I could talk
God
about
bless.
Greg Shaw for a long time, because he well, then do it. No, I'd love to. Just do it. We'll even try and help you get other gigs out there that maybe you can make some money from. You certainly would be able to sell a lot of merch at the Cavern. We have a merch table. It's big. It's people do buy a lot. There you go. Philly Phil.
Yeah, Greg Shaw, Bump Records. What can you say about his impact? But God bless. Yeah.
God bless. Yeah, Greg Shaw. I knew Greg. I wouldn't say real well, but he a few days before he died, he asked me if I would help him on a Stiv Bators project he was going to work on.
Yeah.
It was right before IPO Liverpool, I believe. So I said, I'm going to do IPO in Liverpool, but when I get back, let's talk about it. And while I was gone, he passed.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy. He gave so many artists a chance, artists that never would have had. a chance with both with his label Bomp Records and with the magazine, giving
Yep.
the. I mean, he was a guy who was really behind Dwight Twilley.
Yeah.
Before before other people were. And so he brought Dwight, he helped bring Dwight to the forefront. Of course, Shoes, so many other bands, 2020, so many other bands. But the one thing I'll never forget about Greg is, let's say you and I, Mark, let's say you and I were in a room with Greg Shaw and you asked him a question. When he answered you, he would look at you and never waver. You know how usually if you're talking to one person in the room, you'll look, you'll make eye contact with the other one, just kind of acknowledging that they're there. You haven't forgotten them.
Right.
Yes, he does. Greg would just look at you directly, total tunnel vision throughout his entire answer of the question. It would be like the only two people that were in the room, and this would be if there were 5 or 6 people. He would only look at the person who asked the question. I've never seen anybody else do that, but maybe he just needed that to focus, or maybe he just wanted to let that person know, thank you for asking that question. It's really cool. Greg was I have so many stories about Greg Shaw, and it's so sad that he left us as early as he did.
Yeah, and we lost Robert Gordon too. Rockabilly.
We lost Robert Gordon too. I mean, he lived a decent amount longer than Greg Shaw. But look, as I always say, as sad as it is, the longer any of us are here, the more people we're going to lose who are either in the periphery of our lives or directly in our lives. It's part of life. It's part of the cycle. Anyway, let's talk about some new releases.
Bring something else out. What else you got?
Well, I've got lots of stuff, but one band I wanted to talk about because they're very cool and I'd like to get them back to IPO Liverpool is a band called Los Imposibles. Just want to make sure. They're from Spain, Caceres, Spain, I believe is the name of the town. They have a new album called Escarlata. It's all in Spanish. But if you remember, when the IPO CD came out, I played the Il Iniquieto Roque track on it, which is also all in Spanish. It's all in Spanish, but for me at least, lyrics, the most important thing is that they sound good. I don't really care that much about their definition in most cases. I know a lot of people out there are not like that. Lyrics are more important, what they mean, what they tell, the story they tell. I get that. But if you're into melody, if you're into power pop, well, let's face it, power pop lyrics, they're secondary generally to what's going on musically in the song and vocally. Here's a song called Todo al Revés. I don't know.
I had that for dinner last night, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. It's a John Borak kind of joke. Did he feed you that?
Yeah, he's feeding me lines right now.
Well, I'm not gonna play full songs by anyone because we don't have time if we're gonna do Stump the Bash. But let's play part of Todo al Revés from the new album by Los Imposibles.
Siquiera me puedes dar, y si hay una oportunidad, no me lo dejaré saber. Tengo una que da favor, que me empuje a la oscuridad, y un demonio que me serena, y me deja lleno de paz. Puede ser otro mundo perdido, de gigantes minúsculos, de colores prohibidos.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, good song.
The album is the album's very Beatlesque. Some of it's more psychedelic, but in a interestingly enough, in a Revolver kind of way. And not only that, if you buy the CD version, it's on CD and vinyl. This is the CD version, which is on Bickerton Records. You also get their album previous to this one called Red, which is more of a straight power pop album. This one shows a little bit more variety. But, you know, again, if you're not a, you know, particular lyrics person, but you just like the way they sound, or that's important to you, this album really works. I'd say this has a really good shot of making my top 10 for the year, but I never like to reveal that early. So
no.
But yeah, so Los Imposibles, you can find them on Bandcamp. You can find most of this stuff on Bandcamp, so you can either download it or buy the physical. I always want people to buy the physical, but
sure, yeah.
You know, however it works. So yeah, there we go. We got that. A gentleman from New York who I've been touting for many years. And he finally put out some new records. And when I say some, I mean three albums this year that he'd been working on during COVID, but didn't want to release because, you know, people weren't buying stuff maybe back then. He couldn't go out and play them. His name's Michael Collins. And no, it's not the drummer from Portland, from Throwback Suburbia. It's a New York gentleman. And he goes under the name now, The Summer Holiday. And this is one of his albums called Come Out, Come Out. This is the first one that he had sent me the files over the years. This is the first one that he did. Then there's one called B-Sides, which were imaginary B-Sides of these songs. And then there's one called Aqua, which I don't know why I didn't show you that one, because I have it, I guess because I can't find it right now. But I do have a song queued up. This is the first song on it. It's called Bad Luck. No, it's not the Harold Melvin and the Blue Note song. But here we go. Bad Luck by The Summer Holiday.
God, I hope it's not on Stump the Bash tonight.
The guy's gift for melody is amazing. That he was able to put out 3 records that are just great within the space of a few years. He played IPO New York a couple of times. Just a real talented guy. And apparently Aqua's doing pretty well on Spotify. But now the discs are finally available as physicals. So I would just go to Spotify, look up The Summer Holiday, listen to his 3 albums, and I think you can probably buy these from his website. I don't know if he has a Bandcamp page. I don't think so. But anyway, there's that.
That sounded really good.
It sounded really good, yeah. Here's some of you Tom Petty freaks. Tom Petty meets Jeff Lynne, late 80s. Late 80s vintage will like. A gentleman named Phil Thornley. Now, some of you may remember Phil from the project Astral Drive that he had a few years ago on Low Jinx, same label as Pugwash. So people are familiar with it. He also, I didn't realize this until I looked him up, but apparently he produced an early Cure album and played bass on it. So he's been around a while, working on other people's records. And finally he decided to do some of his own. Mm-hmm. He's got a new album called Now That I Have Your Attention. It is on Low Jinx as well, and it's available. And here's a track called Stand By Love.
If you stand by me, I will stand by you.
He's from the UK, but he's got this Petty thing going.
We stand together. We stand by. Stand by love.
That's so much fun.
Stand by love.
It's really good though.
There's no need for pride. Raise your glass and the toast. What we have tonight. You and me, sha-la-la, dancing, sha-la-la, good time.
Classic shalalas.
We stand for something. Stand by.
Hey, there are a few
I love
songs
it.
that are more ELO-ish. There are a few songs that are more petty-ish. There are some that just sound like him. But it's a really catchy record. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, I like it a lot. So you can check this out. I'm sure he has a Bandcamp. And those of you who know Pugwash, you know the Low Jinx label. You can go there and buy it. And like that. Let's see. Here's another one that I really like that just came out. It's by a Northampton, Massachusetts band called The Glad Machine, who I've really liked for a while. The album's called Hey. Here it is on Big Blast Records, which is the Chicago label that is run by Kirk Fox. And they
I
have
love the cover.
Yeah, they have a lot of really cool bands on this. Like, we should get Kirk on as a guest because he's got a lot of cool acts, most of whom are from Chicago, but not this one. Anyway, this album, the songs on here are really polished in a good way. They remind me of a lot of the bands who were getting signed by major labels, like bands like on DreamWorks, for example, or like a Universal subsidiary. I can't really think of the names. Back around the turn of the millennium. So you can tell these guys, if this were only 20, 25 years ago, probably would have had a shot. As it is, they're still a great band, and we'll be seeing them at IPO Boston this year. Here's a song called San Francisco.
I like that too.
Indeed. I really want to play the whole thing. I got so big hooks. I mean, there were so many bands like this who were at least given one shot back in the late 90s.
You don't get it anymore. Yeah,
you don't get it anymore. Now I'm not all that sure what these guys look like because I haven't seen them yet. It did help to be young and handsome.
And I know
those kind of bands, and just have that cool aura on stage. Those kind of bands tended to get deals before others, but it's just great that at that time an album like this would have had a chance. Obviously, it does not now. But glad that they're around, and glad that Big Blast took a shot at them.
I love the album cover, and let me ask you something about that with CDs. Do you really enjoy the eye-catching album covers, and how important is it for you to have a little booklet and lyric sheets or anything like that? Because I know you're not that big on the lyrics. Does it matter to you whether you have anything additional on the inside of
I mean, for reissues, yes, but not really so much lyric sheets. For reissues, liner notes, background about the band. Usually reissues involve bands with who had been on major labels, even if it's for one or two singles. But so there's a backstory that's always very interesting. How they got signed, as we do on Material Issues, how they got signed, why they got dropped, why the band broke up, all that stuff. For new albums, I don't really need a lyric sheet. I don't need a booklet. It's nice to have, especially because a booklet will often tell you who wrote the songs, who played on them, and especially if there are outside people who you might know. If they played on certain records, those are good things to know. Yeah, this is a CD that's flat, like a lot of them are. The Summer Holiday is also flat, so good chance they don't come with anything except what you see on the front and back cover.
And following up on a point you just made there about what they look like or whatnot. I've had this conversation with my daughter Hannah in the past because she likes a lot of the younger bands that have a borderline power pop kind of sound to. Like she likes this band called the Rex. They're young, they're good looking and whatnot. And I've always said to Hannah, well, what if you listened to this Rex and you loved it, and then you went online and you found out that they were 42 years old, two guys were married with 4 kids and bald, seriously, I was being serious because, and she seriously said, well, yeah, maybe I wouldn't like him as much. Well, because that's the packaging in the world today, sadly. It
was always somewhat important. I mean, if the Beatles, okay, that's fair enough. Love Glad Machine, somebody loves them. If the Beatles were 4 ugly guys, and again, the Stones were not, they were not pretty boys, but they had a certain cool raw energy about them that was sexual, and girls fed off of that even. But having McCartney especially in the band certainly helped, and major labels cared about that to some degree. And then of course in the late 60s when teen magazines came out, you found out who was really good looking, and if you didn't see them in there, maybe you assumed they weren't. Obviously video did kill the radio star, and Hannah's grown up in a time when you can find out anything you want about any band, visually or otherwise. So, it's a totally different time.
Hey, but they are my girls, Hannah and Leah, and they grew up listening to all sorts of things in the car. I mean, they're the only girls I know that can sing along with the Pendletones. And
no, for sure, you did a great job forging some amazing taste, foisting some amazing taste in your daughter. But a band like the Rex, though, that's her band.
Yeah,
that isn't your band. So she probably wants them to fit with her,
right?
With her vibe, with her style.
I get it. And if anybody watching has kids, and if their music is not what you like, it doesn't matter. You should tell them it's great stuff, and you should support everything that they like and everything that they choose, because it's their music. Just like David said, it's their music, it's their time. And if you sit there and you poo-poo it and you say they're nothing like the Beatles or the Stones or the Beach Boys or whatnot, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, then all you're doing is stamping on their own dreams.
Yeah,
so,
and that's not that. I agree with you. That is not the way to go. And obviously, their listening experience is different from ours,
right?
For a million reasons. But songs do still, on some level, and you can talk to your daughters about that, and we could talk to children younger. That's got to be probably John, right?
I don't know. I still get a kick out of it.
I is that how she pronounces the word rap?
I don't know. No.
Okay. Anyway, I know nothing about Cardi B. I'm not even sure it's a female. I think it is. That's how little I know, because I don't have kids.
Hey, so far on the new season of SNL, I've not recognized who the musical guests are. I don't know where they come from. It's just not my.
I'd ask your kids. Yeah, they and again, it's a song. Okay.
Oh, okay.
No freaking idea. I know she was in the news recently for something. I forgot.
I don't know.
Right over. Anyway, should we do Stump the Bash, or is it too late? What do you think?
No, look. It's time for Stump the Bash.
Stump the Bash.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. It's Stump the Bash. You know what that means. We take the year-end Hot 100 list from 1965 to 1975. I have a chart position. David picks 5 of those 11 years, and I give him clues. If he gets the track title and artist on the first clue, it's 5 points, all the way down to 4, 3, 2, 1. And through the 5 years, the 5 tracks, he has to get a total of 15 points, which is only an average of 3 per year. Otherwise, we stump the bash. The last couple weeks.
If anybody who's listening for the first time, if you know an answer, please do not send it to us. Well, Mark will see it and he won't let it on anyway. But don't, please don't.
So last couple of weeks, he's been almost a savant, as far as getting some things. It's been absolutely stunning. But
can I keep it up? I don't know. You seem to think that we've got some pretty tough ones.
I've got some interesting ones this week on Stump the Bash. The chart position is going to be number 64.
Okay.
Chart position number 64.
My age.
You're up. There we go. I know there's an answer, to quote the Beach Boys. Yes. All right, David, you've got 1965 to 1975. What year are we going to start off with this episode of Stump the Bash?
I thought about this, and since this is episode 74, why not start with 1974?
All right, 1974, chart position number 64.
All right.
Let's see what this is. It's going to be a little surprise for me because I really haven't looked at this for a couple of weeks. I made it up. So, here we go. Chart position number 64 in 1974. This song is written.
I know it.
Oh, stop. It was written. This song is written from the point of view.
David, the karma's going to come back and eat you. Go ahead.
It's getting a little cocky, ladies and gentlemen. All right. This song is written from the point of view of a truck driver who says he has some sort of psychic connection with his girlfriend.
Oh.
Oh.
No. I don't know it right off the bat. This is 74. Some song popped in my head, but I really don't think it's that.
Ooh. I'm feeling good. I'm like the stumper tonight. The stumper.
I think you might be. Well, this is the 5-point clue. So
I know you've got plenty of time. You've got plenty of.
A song popped into my head, and I don't think it's right, but it's occupying my head now, and so I can't. Yeah, my head's not free to think of anything else, so I'll just blurt it out. Please Come to Boston by Dave Loggins.
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
All right. Well, 5-point clue out the window. Here we go. Stump the Bash. 1974 clue number 2 for 4 points. Like other famous songs of the era, this song is composed as a suite with several distinctive and quite different sections, although the tonality remains pretty much the same throughout.
That should give it away, but I'm not getting the label this time. So
no, hey, this time we talked about this before. Like the label didn't pop up early.
I thought. Oh, okay. I thought it was permissible to give it to me on the second clue, but it doesn't happen to be there. So
it doesn't happen to be there.
I can't use it. So read that clue again. Sorry.
Like other famous songs of the era, this song is composed as a suite with several distinctive and quite different sections, although the tonality remains pretty much the same throughout.
Oh boy, I don't have that freedom that I had the last few weeks. My brain's just not. Let me think. Boy, my head's not working. Well, no, you may very well get me on this one. There are probably some people out there who even know what it is.
They probably do.
Number 64.
If you don't get it on this one,
sweet. Yeah, I'm not getting it.
All right, we're going down to clue number 3 for 3 points. This is the average you got to get. Released on Polydor in the UK, and track MCA in the U.S.
Oh, geez.
B-side was Just Like Vince Taylor.
Well, I don't know what label it. Track MCA. Is it Chevy Van by Sammy Johns?
No, it is not.
Ah,
But I guarantee you will get it on this clue number 4. If you don't, someone knows.
at least
Someone
I'm
says,
at least I'm picking songs from the right year.
you are. All right, 2 points. Clue number 4. The song references Brenda Lee's Coming On Strong from 1967.
Radar Love by Coleman Williams. Nah. Well, you know what? I'm not that upset that I didn't get it because now that I look back at the clues, maybe I should have gotten it from the label. But it's a song well, number one, I didn't hear it much back then. It wasn't played on my local station. In fact, when it did, I think I did hear the Billboard Top 100 that year, and I remember hearing that song, saying, "I never heard that. WABC never played that, nor did 99X or WPIX." So it's only after the fact that I know it, and it's
Golden
not one that I
Earring,
listen to a lot. So
Radar Love.
I'm not. Yeah, it's just one of those songs that.
Yeah.
I
Well,
obviously know it, but
when I saw that pop up, I was like, "Oh, that could be a difficult one." But then I thought the psychic connection.
If it was one that WABC had played a lot, maybe. But yeah, I'm not. I didn't get it. I'm not that disappointed. I'm not like, oh my god. That was, yeah. Thank you, John Borak.
All right, so right now you're a little behind the 8 ball.
2 points.
You scored 2 points, but there's still time, and there are
Really?
still easy ones in these years. So,
oh boy,
what's the next year you're going with?
All right, well, we'll go 7 years back, and we'll go to 1967.
I was going to say I can't do the math. What is 7 years minus?
I have a feeling you could do the math.
Okay. All right. Ooh. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Another hard one.
Now a little redemption for you, I think.
Oh, maybe.
We'll see.
Right, we'll see.
Clue number 1, 1967, chart position number 64 for the year. Written by 3 members of this band. Released by Parlophone in the UK and Epic Records in the US.
Well, I know the band.
Peaked at number 3 in the UK and number 9 in the US.
Well, I know the band. I know the songwriters went under the name Ransford, but they were actually Clark, Nash, and Hicks. But the question is, what song was it? See, I thought the song I'm thinking of right now, I thought didn't quite make the top 10, but maybe it did. I'm going to go with Carrie Ann by the Hollies.
Good one. Good way to bring it back. Good
the label certainly helped.
Yeah.
Had you not given me that, I don't think I would have gotten it that quickly. But, right.
Clue number 2 was written during a concert that the group was doing along with Tom Jones. And the intro features vocal harmonies strongly influenced by the Beach Boys. So,
yeah, I probably would have gotten it off of that.
I think you did a heck of a job getting it on clue number 1. Carrie Ann. The Hollies.
7 points. Yeah. So
you had 7. You got it.
All right. So
but
now
the
we'll
pressure's
go.
On.
Now, since we went 7 before 74, we'll go 4 before 74. And again, my nemesis, my favorite year for pop music, for top 40 radio, and it's a year that I've never gotten 5 points on, and I think I've only gotten 4 points on once. 1970. So I got to get a 5-pointer on my favorite year.
I'm not sure about this one.
Or see, yeah. John Borak and I talk about how much I love that year, and he's going to kick me out of the 1970 club because he did this great tribute CD that we're going to talk about next week. I'll tell you about that when we finish this up. But anyway, go ahead.
All right. Well, clue number 1 is probably difficult. It gets more interesting as we go on, but if you get it on clue number 1, you're pretty darn good. This track was written by Tony Hiller and Peter Simons, who went under a pseudonym for group member Johnny Goodison.
Oh, Christ. Uh, that's like a 10-point clue.
It is a 10-point clue.
Read that again. I'm not a big
So
songwriter.
it was written. The song was written by Tony Hiller and Peter Simons. That's a pseudonym for group member Johnny Goodison. So Johnny Goodison is in the group that sang this song. So you'd have to know Tony Hiller. You'd have to know who Johnny Goodison was a member of.
I don't, but a song just popped into my head. I'm going to take a wild stab at it. United We Stand by the Brotherhood of Man. No, right? Is it?
I don't know how you just did that.
Wow.
How could you? I couldn't come up with 1 out of 1. That's a 1 out of 100 dart you just threw there.
I have read about the Brotherhood of Man, and I probably somewhere in the recesses of my subconscious, that name Johnny Goodison must have sat, because
is Rena under the desk feeding you clues?
I could say something very lewd right now about her being under the desk. But no, I will not say that.
That's unbelievable. 5 points. United We Stand by the Brotherhood of Man. I got to tell you, I mean, I figured clue number 1 going to do you in. Clue number 2 is very interesting because Reg Dwight was an office boy at Mills Music on Denmark Street Publishing House where Hiller worked. And Hiller had Reg Dwight, Elton John, record the demo for this song.
I knew that Elton John recorded demos for a lot of really cool. Thank you, Andy. Elton John recorded demos for a lot of really cool songs from 1970, including My Baby Loves Lovin', which is by White Plains, which is one of my all-time favorite songs by anybody.
Right.
I certainly love United We Stand. It's I certainly did. You know, at the time, I actually thought they might be black, believe it or not, which is probably weird because it's in retrospect. It's like, come on, that doesn't sound. There's a certain vibe about it that made me think that. I certainly didn't think they were from the UK. There are definitely certain bands who you listen to and you think they got to be American, and then there are others that you know are from the UK. Probably the most American sounding UK big hit, which we may see in this thing, even though it only reached number 23, but was on the charts 23 weeks. That's Yellow River by Christie, which, by the way, there's a version of on here by the Armoires, which is really
Look how
cool.
you tie this in perfectly. That's great. I love it.
Didn't even know. Anyway, that's a song that I didn't hear at the time, but I heard about 4 or 5 years later on a compilation, and I fell in love with it. And it's another big favorite, but I would never have known that band was British. Never. They sounded so much like, they sound like a poppier Creedence, basically.
I would almost.
If you listen to some of the other songs on that album, if you listen to some of the other songs on that first Christie album, it's they're clearly going for a Creedence vibe. But anyway, I could digress about that.
I know, but I wouldn't bet the mortgage you wouldn't have got that on clue number 1.
Well, there you go.
Great job, man.
Okay, now I'm doing the Josh Naylor. Yeah, now I'm going to get 0 right now.
Yeah,
and I deserve it.
And 0 would be an inside pitch the next time you come to the plate and I face you.
Garrett Cole actually said he didn't see it at the time, which I actually believe, because I think once he gave up, he probably just put his head down because he was so upset. He said he didn't see it at the time, only later. But the next pitch might have been. I know, and you're very thank you, and you're very traditional also when it comes to baseball. And you probably thought the next batter should have gotten. I've never been for that. The way I feel is, if you're a pitcher and you gave up a home run, you didn't do your job. If anything, the batter should throw his bat at you, the next batter, to punish you for giving up the home run ball. You deserve to be punished, not the next hitter who didn't do anything. You fucked up.
Yeah,
that's funny.
That's a good point. The next batter comes up and throws the bat at the pitcher for
giving up the home run. He didn't do his job. He deserves punishment, not the next batter on the other team that didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, the manager should come out to the mound and go,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
walk-
Or that
and
you
walk
have
back.
the team's manager come out and slap him. Have the other team's manager come out and give him a big hug. Yeah, thank you, Boughton. Oh no, that's Gary Bell actually. But anyway, let's
That's
go
funny.
before
All right.
people decide they want to leave. We've already been on an hour 9. So
All right. That's all right. Well, all right. All you need
Right.
is 3 points to not be stumped tonight.
well, I got to pick another year, and of course, I never want it to be just 70s, because those are the songs I actually heard at the time. So I like to mix it up a bit. We'll go with 68.
68, 1968.
1968, yeah.
All right, here we go. 1968, chart position number 64, year-end Hot 100. It's not going to give you too much. Clue number 1. This soul song, released as a single on the VJ label.
Okay.
That's all you getting on the.
That's
on the
all
clue
I get?
That's all you're getting on clue number 1.
VJ. Who was on VJ in 1968? Yeah, that wasn't a label that was too active at that point. So I should know this, actually. I'm sure if Grossberg's listening, he's like turning over, and I wish was his grave. Saying, Bash, you're a fucking moron. Because he would know this immediately. Let's see. VJ. Who was on VJ in 68? I don't.
Well, if you get this one, listen, if you get this one on the first clue, I'm driving out to LA to shake your hand and congratulate you personally.
1968 VJ. I think this song was on Jamie, not VJ, but it's the only thing that's popping into my head. So The Horse by Cliff Nobles, that's not it, is it?
No, that's not it. That's
Yeah,
not
I
it.
didn't think so.
I almost had to spend money on gas. All right, clue number 2 for 4 points. Song was written by Wade Flemons, Robert Eugene Miller, and Barrett Strong.
Well, the Barrett Strong should help, but I'm so stuck on the VJ that. And
So you got VJ and Barrett Strong.
Yeah, I don't know.
Clue number 3 for 3 points is all you need to get to 15. It comes from the album titled It's Not Unusual, with the B-side, It's Not Unusual.
No, obviously it's not Tom Jones.
Just trying to throw you off there a little bit. Yeah.
I should have. Whatever album this is, I don't have. I don't think I ever had. Yeah, that VJ is just. This is the one time where I wish I didn't know the label because it's throwing me off.
Mm-hmm.
It's not allowing me to think of other things. But Soul from 68. Let me just.
This is a tough one.
No, this is. See, again, this is a year I didn't hear the songs at the time. So,
yeah.
And if I don't have it in my collection, yeah, I don't know.
All right. We're down to clue number 4 for 2 points. So even if you get it here, you're still shy.
Yeah.
Putting the pressure on. It's an American R&B group formed in high school in 1953 under the name The El Rays. 1 year later, they had their first hit with Oh What a Night.
Okay. I know the group now, but I'm not so sure I know the song. I should. Hold on. Oh, fuck. What's their hit? What was their big hit? Oh, I was just stuck. Well, I know they did a remake of that song. And maybe it charted big. I can't remember. But I do know the group now. I think I do. But what was there? This is driving me crazy. I'm just going to say, Oh, What a Night by the Dells, the remake.
No. Here's the final clue. Doesn't get that much easier here. This song reached number 30 on the R&B singles chart as well. It was re-recorded 3 years later for the Cadet label, and that took it to number 3 on the R&B charts. although it charted in the Hot 100. But it
Obviously, it's
so when you talked about something being re-recorded, this song was also re-recorded.
and it was number 3 on the R&B chart on Cadet.
On Cadet.
It was always on Cadet. There's another label I know, but I don't know what record this is. Wow, I think have I gotten 0 before? I have, right?
I think you have, yes.
How can this be a 1-point clue though? I thought those were supposed to be giveaways.
It was really hard to give away anything on this.
Really?
You didn't have to pick 1968, David.
No. It's okay. Look, I'm not supposed to only get 5 points.
Yeah.
But wow, and Cadet is a label I know, and
this is one of those songs where it was just tough to get a good clue for it.
There had to be something in a lyric that would have given it away. But
I could have, yeah.
1 point, and it's
just going to put all the pressure on your final selection.
That's like a 5-point clue. Oh my God!
Think of how much fun question song number 5 is going to be. You have to get it. It's going to be.
I know, and while I know the Cadet label, I can't think of an R&B. Well, this maybe. I mean, maybe this isn't an R&B song, but you mentioned soul, and
yeah,
I'm pretty sure
Remember, your other clue was American R&B group formed in high school in 1953 under the name the L Rays. 1 year later, had their first hit with "Oh What a Night."
I'm just blanking on what their big hit is.
Yeah, I think that's where your problem is.
And it's a senior moment because I know this song, obviously, and I'm just, I don't think this.
The tension. People are checking in. The bash has been stamped. The bash has been bashed. Ambushed.
I didn't think the song was that big a hit, but I'll just throw it out there. There Is by the Dells?
No.
What is it?
It is the Dells.
Yes.
We were all over it. The track was Stay in My Corner.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
All right.
David, you're at 12 points. You have to get 3 on this year. This is a pivotal.
Will give you the game. See, I knew it. I did the baby. I did the rocking thing, and I just got it back.
You just got it. I just threw you a high, hard one, some chin music on that one.
Those were tough clues.
They were tough.
It would have been nice to have a 1 point.
I think I know, but I think if you had chosen any other year except 1968, it just happened to.
You could have said something. This song didn't quite corner the market on the R&B charts, but it did get up to. You could have done that.
I could have said. I could have said if you were a bad boy, they would put you here or something.
That wouldn't have given it away. At least one of the. Anyway, whatever. I blew it. 12 points. One more.
So this is pivotal.
We've done 270s and 260s.
What are you confident in? What year?
I'm not necessarily confident in anything right now. But let's. Now I gotta get there. So let's play 7. Let's do 72.
1972. And again, I'm flipping to 1972 right now. I don't know what the answer is right now because I forget myself.
At least I had the group right.
You did have the group right.
And they did do a remake of "Oh What a Night," I believe.
They did. Yeah, they did.
Stay in My Corner. Fuck. Okay.
This one's easy for you, man. I have every confidence in the world.
Not get it. Okay.
All right, 1972. David needs 3 points not to be stumped tonight. Chart position number 64. The song is autobiographical, with the songwriter drawing on his unsuccessful attempt to revive a failed relationship.
Oh no, wait, no, failed relationship.
You didn't finish the whole sentence. You're fine.
Okay.
A failed relationship.
No.
I know you were going Garden Party, Ricky Nelson.
Failed, and the whole idea of him playing the garden and everybody wanting him, that wasn't really a failure, but the idea that he wanted to be a vital artist and with new stuff, and everyone wanted to hear the old stuff. But anyway, a failed. So read the whole clue again, because
the song is autobiographical, with the songwriter drawing on his unsuccessful attempt to revive a failed relationship?
Oh boy, my brain's not finding it. Because there's nothing. Again, subject matter in songs don't always.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, one song popped in my head, but I can't be right. But Everybody Plays the Fool by the main ingredient?
No.
No, it's not. That's not about a failed relationship exactly. But
Okay. All right. We're at 4. Now we're going to the question number 2 for 4 points. You're still in good shape. The writer was in love with a woman who had the last name of Pandolfi, who would later become engaged to another man and end up as the curator at the Museo de Arte Carrillo in Mexico City.
right. Oh, fuck. Read that again. I'm sorry.
The writer was in love with a woman with the last name of Pandolfi.
This is in real life?
Yes.
Not in the song. Okay.
Who would later become engaged to another man and end up as a curator at the Museo de Arte Carrillo in Mexico City. Not that being a curator in Mexico City has anything to do with this song, but I throw it in there just to lead you down other paths.
Again, this is the subject matter of the song, and sometimes
Yeah.
that's why me.
Oh my gosh.
Failed relationship, 1972, number 64, so it's not a huge hit. No, that's 73. Son of a bitch. Yeah, my brain's like mush now. Yeah,
You can cut the tension with a knife.
you could. That's from Ball 4. That's It's about Spec. It's about Spec Richardson, the general manager of the Astros, listening to a bunch of the Spanish players speaking. He can't make sense of it, so he just says "abba dabba dabba dabba." Anyway, yeah, my head is fixated on songs that are wrong, and I can't get.
You're still back on the VJ label.
What?
You're still back on the VJ.
No, I didn't know anything on VJ.
I know.
So I wasn't fixated on. I'm not, but yeah, I am fixated on a song that I know is not right. Wait, it can't be. But well, it says a failed relationship, but that doesn't necessarily. Well, I'm just gonna take a stab at this. "Daddy, Don't You Walk So Fast" by Wayne Newton.
No.
Yeah. That was kind of a relationship with his daughter.
It was. You have clue number 3 for 3 points. This will win the night for you if you can get it right here. Chart position 64, 1972. Virtually at the same time as this version was on the charts in 1972, Bobby Bare released a cover version that reached number 12 on the Billboard country charts.
Which, of course, doesn't help me because
at the same time.
Right. But should help me. So this is kind of okay. I'm starting to think you're going to stump the bash this week, which you did one time before, and then I got the baseball question to redeem myself. But and
we could do the baseball question tonight too. We'll do the spin.
Bobby Bare, yeah. With no labels, this is.
Unfortunately, the label will be revealed on clue number 4.
Of course it will. Not that may not give it to me either. But I should get 5 extra points for getting United We Stand. No, I know. You can only get 5.
Well, you didn't start the night off great with the 2-pointer, but then you came roaring back with 5 and 5. So
and then I get 0, and
then you got no
now
hit.
it looks like I'm not going to get 3. Wow, talk about a wide variance here. Read the clue once more.
Virtually at the same time that this version was on the charts in 1972, Bobby Bare released a cover version that reached number 12 on the Billboard Country charts.
Not even number 1, number 12.
Have we stumped the bash tonight?
Sylvia's Mother by Dr. Hook.
Gosh darn it, we were so close to stumping the bash. And
really?
You got it.
I was almost going to say that for the 5-pointer, but then I thought, is that really about a relationship?
Oh, Sylvia's Mother. Yes.
Yeah,
he was calling saying
the Bobby Bare helped.
It did. 3
Sylvia's
points.
Mother, while it's not a straight out country song, it's very easy to see how somebody could do a cover of it. And I
wasn't even going to get to clue number 5, which was written by Shel Silverstein. So that probably would have given it away.
Not to a lot of people. That's still
not to a lot of people, but to you it would have.
I did know that, but and the label, which was Columbia, I believe.
No, it was on Mercury. It was on Mercury.
Was it on Mercury?
With the B-side Music System USA. Yeah. Oh, wow.
I thought Dr. Hook was on Columbia. What do I know? Maybe they were later, but thankfully I didn't need that, and I just made it.
Go ahead and wipe the sweat off your brow.
Oh my God, I'm not going to do this because it got me in trouble, and 15, I barely squeaked by. But
15 total points.
I have to say that some of these, like again, even the 1-point clue for the Dells thing was that was tough.
That was a tough year.
And I should have, again, if I knew enough about R&B, and I do know a lot, but I'm not nearly as expert in it as I do pop. I would have known that I would have probably picked out the Dells from the label. I'm sure Grossberg would have, and other people who are R&B experts.
You know what? The last couple times we played Stump the Bash, it was looking like it was too easy for David Bash, even at high chart numbers.
Labels help. They don't always help everybody, but in my case, as somebody who bought some of these records and not at the time, I did not have a turntable. I just had a cassette. I had a cassette recorder, and I would record things off the radio, which a lot of kids did, of course.
Sure,
that's all they had, or they didn't have the money to buy even 45s.
Well, somebody's saying it was on Columbia.
I thought it was too. Are you sure?
I thought it was on Mercury.
I thought they were on Columbia. I really did. Now somebody's confirming that.
I
don't remember Dr. Hook being on Mercury, but I don't own any of their stuff. I think I have that song on a CD compilation. That's about it.
Yeah, it is Columbia Records. Maybe I was looking at a different number.
We would have had to.
Yeah, it is.
We would have had to throw out the whole question if.
No, I'm not looking at it. Maybe I was looking at a different thing when I saw Mercury, but I think I did have it as Columbia. Hold on. I just want to double check what I had.
It was actually
no, I got it on Columbia.
Okay. Yeah, to be fair, it was actually Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show at that
Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show.
I think they dumped. It was probably a little too unwieldy, so they dumped it when they had their
Cardi B was on Mercury. Yeah,
there you go. when they started putting out the easy listening crap that they did in the late 70s. They dumped the Medicine Show part.
But it's all moot because you were not stumped tonight.
You know what their hit was the following year, which of course has become kind of an anthem. If you saw Almost Famous, you heard the boys singing cover of the Rolling
Stone. Yeah. Jersey band, Dr. Hook and the Medicine
Were they
Show.
really?
Yep.
No,
they were a Jersey bar band.
You would think they were from some rural place.
I'll tell you,
maybe they will in rural New Jersey, but
I am a huge Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show fan. I've got, I don't know, 8, 9 albums on CD.
whoa, I have 0 albums by them.
Really? No, I've got.
Maybe I need to revisit them. I mean, you know,
I'll tell you what, and our good friend Robbie Rist is a monster Dr. Hook fan.
Does he like all their stuff? I mean, I know he loves Sylvia's mother.
He loves Sylvia's mother, but yeah,
covered it many times.
We've talked about a lot of their early stuff, and I know he is a fan of, as I am. I just, you know, you always hear some of their bigger hits, which were kind of smarmy in some ways, you know, spending the night together and.
Well, that's what I mean. The late '70s stuff was all.
But there's some of the early stuff. I don't want to be alone tonight, and good thing Sylvia's mother-esque, and of course the fun stuff, Acapulco Goldie and Freaking at the Freakers Ball, and
that sounds like something the Shel Silverstein would have written.
A lot of Shel Silverstein tracks, and you know, as you know, lyrically, I like good lyrics, and you know, Shel was just great with his humor in the lyrics, and Dr. Hook was a band that brought that across favorably. Oh yeah, see, I've got tons of Dr. Hook up here, but they released everything as 3 albums on 2 CDs.
Oh,
so you'll get
the BGO thing, isn't it?
Yeah, you got the BGO thing. So you got that, and you got that.
No, that's the later stuff, isn't it?
Rising in the Dark. Bankrupt.
They have a hit called A Little Bit More. Oh, yeah,
A Little Bit More. Right there it is.
Yeah, again, that's when they started going easy listening.
And then Pleasure and Pain and some of the early. Yeah, it's all.
Can you get that Cardi B thing off?
Sorry, Cardi B. Wow, I was just so enamored. Oh yeah, there you go. Roland the Roadie loved Gertrude the Groupie, but Gertrude the Groupie loved groups. Yep, that's one of the lyrics. Tim, good call.
I may have to investigate some of their earlier stuff. I don't think the easy listening stuff would go well, but
it still brings back those memories too, even though it's a little soft. But a lot of the early stuff is just great. I love it.
I mean, obviously, I like the 2 hits.
"Carry Me, Carry." That's one of my favorite Dr. Hook songs. Period. I could be happy with that as one of my top 20 desert island songs.
Wow.
And that's just
really wow. Yeah. Okay.
Come on, carry me a little farther. Great stuff. Got to do it.
I never knew it was, by the way, I never knew it was Mrs. Avery at the time. I thought it was Mrs. Safety. What, I mean, I didn't know anyone named Avery, so it could have been anything. I mean, if we all went over the lyrics that we thought,
oh God,
that actually were not. But yeah, I mean,
I'm still not sure of a number of lyrics.
Oh God, no. And I try not to look them up either.
Yeah,
this is something I really need to know for like a review or something. I try, let the mystery exist for a while. Maybe one day, one of the things that's cool about demo versions, and you talk about the Beatles and all the demos on this Revolver box, but sometimes when it's not encumbered by all the instruments, you start understanding lyrics that prior to that you didn't. It's happened to me lots and lots of times.
Like I still am not sure of Benny and the Jets by Elton John. What he's saying, she's got electric. I always thought it was boobs.
A lot of people thought it was boobs. Yeah,
and I still think it's that because I don't know what the correct lyric is. Her ma has 2, because like her ma has 2. I mean, it makes sense. I don't know.
I think it's boots.
Probably is.
Because it rhymes with suit.
But I'm not really sure. See, even you said I think it is. You're not really positive.
Boots, a mohair suit,
mohair suit. See, I thought it was her mom has 2.
Oh no. I always knew the mohair suit. This electric boots, a mohair suit. I read it in a magazine. No, Elton is one of the hardest.
I thought it was Henry instead of Avery.
Avery. Oh, please, Mrs. Henry. Okay. Well, yeah. Growing up in the UK, I guess Henry is such a American sound, a name that you're gonna go there. I did not know anyone named Avery until the Braves pitcher Steve Avery from the early 90s. So yeah, and I think that may have been around the time where I realized, hey, they're singing Sylvia Avery. Doesn't roll off very well.
Yeah, Sylvia Avery.
Sylvia Savory. I can.
But that's a great song, Sylvia's Mother.
It really is.
That's a classic. If
and,
nobody, if people out there have never heard Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show, look up.
Well, most of our fans probably have heard that song.
I think most of them
are old enough, but not everyone.
Not everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a lot of songs from back then. It's very reflective of the time.
And everybody used to think that Ray Sawyer was Dr. Hook because he had the eye patch.
Yeah,
and he wasn't. There was no Dr. Hook. It was just Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show. And what's the lead singer, the other guy?
Yeah, there was another. There were two. Yeah, I forgot his name.
I'm blanking on
Ray
his name.
Sawyer is the one guy I remembered.
Ray Sawyer
because of Tom Sawyer, so it's easy to remember that name.
La Perrier, French name. It just I'm
Go on, Barry Gutman, if you're still here. Who is it?
I'm having the aged moment again.
Yeah,
but anyhow,
I don't.
Ray Sawyer died not too long ago.
Yeah, I've read it before, but I don't remember. But anyway, we've gone to an hour and 35.
This could be our longest show on record. Yeah,
it probably is. We could, I mean, again, you and I could talk forever and never get bored. That may not be the case with our audience, but so we'll let you go.
Yep, indeed. Let's talk about what's coming up quickly.
Oh yeah, we should. We do have a guest next week. Well, two guests. One of them is who I fondly like to call the Joan Rivers of pop, because he's filled in for me on occasion. So I'm the Johnny Carson to his Joan Rivers, I guess. That must make you Ed McMahon, but that doesn't work, does it? Anyway, we're going to be bringing John Borak back.
Thank you, Dennis LeCourrier.
That is,
yep.
It's probably Borak, and probably looked it up. Yeah. Sorry, I meant John. He doesn't like being called by, and neither do I, actually. But I don't stump the David doesn't sound as good, so I'll take that. Anyway, we're going to have John Borak on with one of the main men of a really happening pop label, Spider Pop Records, out of Arlington, Texas. And this particular main man is none other than Mr. Victor Irwin, who's a really big, jovial Texan.
That's next week. That's great.
He's a lot of fun, and I'm sure we're all gonna have a good time. The label, We All Shine On, celebrating the music of 1970. This is a compilation that John Borak produced and was released by really good. Spider Pop with a bit of cooperation from Big Stir. And yeah, it's current acts doing their versions of mostly hits from 1970. There are a couple of album tracks on here as well, but it's mostly hits, and it's got some really cool people on it. But we'll leave that for next week. We'll let John.
I don't think there's a cover of the Dells on there, is there?
Well, not of anything to them. I don't think they had any big hits in 1970. But there is some soul on here for sure.
Yeah.
It's some blue-eyed soul. Let me see what we would consider a soul. Are You Ready by Pacific Gas and Electric?
Sure, yeah.
That's certainly soul. Although this was originally done by a white man, one might be able to call "Walk a Mile in My Shoes" by Joe South kind of soulful.
Yeah.
And although this was a white group, also Alive and Kickin', who had the hit "Tighter and Tighter," that definitely had a bit of a soulful feel to it. Yeah, that's about all I could on here that I would call soul. But everything else is pretty much just straight pop and rock and roll.
Really
but
well done.
Some really good versions of some of our favorite hits from 1970. That is the best formula for a tribute compilation. Have great acts cover great songs. How can you beat that?
Yeah.
I mean, a bad act can ruin a great song.
Sure. Yeah.
And a great act maybe can't resuscitate a bad song. But this works perfectly. John and Spider Pop did a great job on it. If you don't own it, you should pick it up. See, we've done all week. John, Victor, we don't need you next week.
Yeah. Might as well
Forget
just.
it. We've
might as well
promoted
just
the
phone
hell
it
out of
in.
this already. So no,
That'll
we're
be
gonna
next
have
week. Spider
we're gonna
Pop.
have John and Victor
And
on.
John Borg, yeah.
You know, they Victor, I'm sure, has a lot to say about Spider Pop and other things that he's done in his life.
Yeah.
And again, he's a really, like I said, big jovial Texan. Very, a lot of fun to be around. So this should be fun. And now the following week, we don't have anything scheduled at the moment, but the week after that, we do. What do we got?
Yeah. We got. I'm going to read some of this because his career has been so long and varied. But we've got Mr. Billy Terrell on November 9th. And he's been in the music business as a writer and producer for over 50 years. And he's written and produced songs and albums for the Duprees, the Manhattans, Bobby Rydell, Frankie Avalon, Helen Reddy. He even produced a Lancaster band that I know very well from the 80s, the Sharks, when they did a hit they had with Fly with the Eagles for the Philadelphia Eagles. And it was a huge thing for them here in the Philadelphia area. But Billy's also a stand-up comedian. He's open for a lot of big name acts. And he's a Vietnam veteran, and he wrote a great book titled The Other Side of Rock and War. And it's all about his experiences with the Mang Lang orphanage in Vietnam when he was there, and all the orphans that he left behind. And so besides all the wonderful things he's done in the music business, Billy has done the Vietnam and wrote a wonderful book on it. So he's going to be a really interesting guest. I know him personally. He's just really quite the guy. So looking forward to that November 9th, Billy Terrell.
Ray, I look forward to it too. In the meantime, Rena and I are going to be going on a getaway. It's our 5th wedding anniversary on Friday.
I can't believe it's been 5
years.
years.
You flew all the way out from the East Coast to come to our wedding. I'll never forget that. Thank you so much for doing that. So we're going to get away to a little town called Cambria, which is up the coast. It's kind of a seaside village. So a little bit of Western waxation for a few days. And, then we'll be back. And IPO comes up in November, New York, Boston, and Hamilton, Ontario. So got to put the finishing touches on that. But in the meantime, Mark, be well, stay well. Everyone else who stuck with us for an hour and 41 minutes, thank you so much, as always. And and
we'll see you next week for episode number 75 of Material Issues. All right, everybody, have a great night. Stay happy, healthy, grateful. David, love to Rena. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.